The winter wind howled over the frozen plains. Hooves thundered across the snow. From the east, the horizon was a black wave, banners flapping, arrows glinting, and the shrill whine of war horns carried on the icy air. In the year 1241, Europe stood at the edge of an abyss. The Mongols, horsemen who had shattered empires, burned cities, and crushed armies from China to Persia, now rode toward the heart of Christendom. And then they stopped. The unstoppable army turned back. Europe was spared. But why? Was it luck, geography, or a decision deep within the Mongol court that had nothing to do with European knights at all? The Mongol war machine. Before we answer, we must understand what Europe was facing. The Mongol Empire, forged by Genghis Khan and expanded by his heirs, was unlike any military power the world had ever seen. Its armies were not bound by slow supply wagons or narrow roads. They lived on horseback, moving faster than any medieval army could react. Their warriors were masters of composite bows, capable of hitting a target while galloping at full speed. They could feign retreat to lure enemies into traps, strike from miles away with arrows, and coordinate attacks across vast distances using a sophisticated relay system. By the 1230s, they had already annihilated kingdoms in Russia, Persia, and the Middle East. Cities like Kiev had been reduced to ash. To the people of Europe, the Mongols were less an army and more a force of nature, swift, merciless, and inevitable. Europe in the 1240s, divided and vulnerable. The Europe the Mongols looked upon was a fractured continent. In the east, the kingdom of Hungary was strong but isolated, its king, still recovering from internal disputes. Poland was a patchwork of duchies, often at odds with each other. The Holy Roman Empire was a vast but disunited collection of states. France and England were locked in their own feuds. No unified army stood ready to defend the continent. If the Mongols had pressed on, there seemed little to stop them from riding as far as the Atlantic. The invasion, Poland and Hungary, 1241. In 1241, the Mongols struck from the north. General Baidar led a force into Poland. The Battle of Lignica was swift and brutal. Polish knights, fighting with courage but lacking coordination, were cut down by waves of arrows and encircling cavalry. From the east, Ögedei Khan and the legendary Subotai swept into Hungary. At the Battle of Mohi, the Mongols crossed the river at night, surrounding the Hungarian camp. By dawn, the air was thick with smoke and screams. The Hungarian army was annihilated, and King barely escaped with his life. The road into Central Europe lay open. Austria, Germany, perhaps even France, all were within reach. And yet, instead of pressing forward, the Mongols withdrew. Why they stopped? Theories and real reasons. Historians have debated this for centuries. Several explanations stand out. The death of the Great Khan. In late 1241, news reached Ögedei Khan that Ögedei, the Great Khan in Mongolia, had died. According to tradition, all Mongol princes had to return to Mongolia for the Kurultai. The council to elect a new Khanbatu withdrew to take part in the succession struggle. Logistics and terrain. Europe's dense forests, fortified stone cities, and unpredictable winters were unlike the open steppes. While the Mongols excelled in mobile warfare, sustaining a long campaign deep in Europe would have stretched their supply lines. Strategic priorities. The Mongols were not a mindless wave of destruction. They expanded strategically, and at the time, consolidating power in the Middle East, Russia and China may have been more important than a risky push into unknown territory. Resistance was growing. While Europe was fragmented, the battles in Poland and Hungary had shocked rulers into action. Armies in Germany and Austria were mobilizing, and crusader calls were spreading. The Mongols may have calculated that the element of surprise was lost. Could they have conquered Europe? This question still fuels debate. Some argue that if Ögedei Khan had not turned back, the Mongols could have rolled over a divided Europe. Others believe that the combination of geography, fortifications, and the sheer size of the territory would have slowed them down. One thing is certain. Europe's survival in 1241 was as much about timing as it was about resistance. The Mongols would never again come so close to conquering the heart of Europe. Later campaigns in the late 13th century reached as far as Poland and Hungary again, but they lacked the same overwhelming momentum. In the end, Europe's escape was not because of knights in shining armor or impregnable castles, but because of a political crisis thousands of miles away in the Mongol capital. Sometimes, history turns not on the battlefield, but in the council chamber. And so we are left to wonder, if the Great Khan had lived just a few years longer, would the map of Europe today look entirely different? If you want, I can now expand this into a full 20 to 25 minute Kings and Generals style script, complete with Sunbasine battle descriptions, Mongol army structure and tactics breakdown, European political intrigue, and geographic challenges, so it truly feels like an epic documentary. Do you want me to build the full extended version like that?